So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Joe Biden is going to really put pressure on Boris Johnson to solve the impasse within the Northern Ireland Protocol. So in this article, it does kind of mention him. He's going to have he's got some stuff to say to the EU as well, but most of this stuff looks like it's aimed specifically at Boris Johnson and the British government. So this is about the G7 summit that's coming up soon. Biden will warn Boris Johnson not to renege on the Northern Ireland Brexit deal, the Northern Ireland Protocol, when they meet at the first time at the G7 summit this week. He will also use a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister before the gathering of world leaders in Cornwall to explicitly express America's support for the Northern Ireland Protocol. So Biden is going to tell Boris Johnson, look, you need to buck up, son. Biden is expected to tell Johnson that the US sees the deal agreed by the Prime Minister in 2019 as an integral part of maintaining long-term peace in Northern Ireland, and in particular the Good Friday Agreement, of which America is a guarantor. So if anything goes wrong, if violence starts really kicking off within Ireland and Northern Ireland, I think at that point the Americans will step in again. He will also warn that the prospects of the US trade deal with the UK will be damaged if the situation remains unresolved. So that kind of unicorn deal is going to be harder to get with America, especially if we start messing around with the Northern Ireland Protocol. So it's interesting that specifically, especially in the first bit of the article, they talk about him warning Boris Johnson. Apparently Biden is expected to make it clear to Brussels that he expects them to stop being bureaucratic. Like what are you going to tell them? And adopt a more flexible approach, which is something that they're actually looking at doing when it comes to certain things like medicines, which we're going to talk about here somewhere in this article when we get here. But it's quite interesting that he's going to say Brussels, stop being so bureaucratic and be more flexible. Like, okay, that's not very it's not very helpful, is it? It's not specific in any way. So the protocol was designed to prevent a hard border in Ireland, stuff we already know. It talks about the Northern Ireland Protocol, which has imposed new restrictions on trade between Britain and Northern Ireland and angered unionists who see it as a threat to the province's place in the United Kingdom. And that's one of the reasons why you've seen violence really flare up here. Sources in London and Washington told The Times that the administration was increasingly nervous about the impasse. Last week, the EU accused Johnson of taking them for fools and warned that Brussels was drawing up plans to impose trade sanctions on the UK if progress was not rapidly made on implementing the agreement. So the EU are going to start playing hardball here, but that is going to escalate tensions. But this is probably the right call for the EU because the UK are playing games here. Dangerous ones. This is more on the UK than anyone else here. I don't want to see any blame being flung at Biden or the EU when we're the ones that agreed to the Northern Ireland Protocol and we're the ones messing around. Privately, Brussels diplomats think that Johnson may want to deliberately collapse the protocol under the pretext of unionist opposition and the threat to the Good Friday Agreement. So it's very possible that Boris Johnson says that, look, the Northern Ireland Protocol isn't working. There's violence in Northern Ireland. It's Article 16 time, ladies and gentlemen. That's what the EU, I think, are fearing, because if that happens, then we're in a lot of trouble. Let's put it that way. Senior government sources reject this. Frost, the Brexit minister, yesterday accused the EU of being insensitive to the protocol's real-world impacts on lives and livelihood. Well, the solution for that. Just go for temporary alignment then. That's the solution. Don't be an idiot. Because we're operating under the EU's legal framework, we have very limited discretion to operate the rules in a way which makes sense on the ground in Northern Ireland. So why do you agree to that then? You're the one who negotiated and agreed to this. You can't wash your hands of it now, my friend. This is on you, buddy. Biden is understood to have been lobbied by the Irish government to intervene. The administration is now convinced that the protocol has to be made to work and is integral to the peace process, a senior diplomatic source said. Biden has been lobbied by the Irish government, so he's gonna have to figure out here where people stand on certain issues and figure out where he's gonna stand. He can't be neutral and be like, oh, both sides are bad and both sides are the problem, when we know one side is causing problems. One side is the one causing problems, and that's the UK. So I don't know if he can do that. The EU as a trading partner, I think, is far more valuable than the UK to the US as well. So that's going to be quite an interesting thing. Not to mention the fact that the Irish lobby is very powerful in America. There are a lot of Irish people in America, and there are, I think, a decent chunk of Americans who associate themselves with Ireland, even though they are, they're born in America. So that's quite interesting. Joe Biden himself says, when he was asked for a quote for the BBC, he said, "I'm Irish." So it's clear his allegiances are going to lie with Ireland, and what that probably means is that he's going to have to side with the EU on this one. It's going to be interesting. So João Vale de Almeida, the EU ambassador to the UK, told the Times radio, "What our British friends asked from us was pragmatism, and we have proven that we want to be pragmatic, but pragmatism requires trust. That's the reason why we won't get equivalency, because there's no trust here. Both sides do not trust each other, mainly the EU to GB, which makes sense. If you don't have trust, and if you create frustration, then these are not the best conditions to find consensual solutions," which is absolutely true. So this article from the 7th of June, but I found this one from today. This one's hot off the presses from when I cover this, which is that Joe Biden has deep concerns that a UK-EU trade route could endanger peace in Northern Ireland, his national security advisor has told the BBC. So originally what we saw was Joe Biden was just going to speak to Boris Johnson, but he's going to speak to other leaders in the G7 summit. That includes France and Germany. So the US president will tell fellow leaders at this week's G7 summit that gains since the Good Friday Agreement must be protected, Jake Sullivan said. So it's going to be interesting to see if Joe Biden does an actual speech about this at the G7 summit. That's going to be phenomenal. If no compromise is reached, there are fears of potential violence in Northern Ireland, which I think will happen. Mr. Sullivan's comments also come as the UK is trying to secure a free trade deal with the US, as we mentioned. He insisted he was not trying to negotiate in public or issue a warning to Boris Johnson's government, but stating how the president feels about this issue. So he's saying that, look, man, the president's extremely nervous about this. You're trying to get a trade deal. I'm not saying that these are going to impact the things, but these might have an impact. So that's what he's trying to do here. This is the man, Jake Sullivan. He looks like a typical American politician, very clean cut, hair combed, and a fairly decent suit, which Boris Johnson can learn a lot from this gentleman. So in an interview with the BBC's North American editor, John Sopel, Mr. Sullivan said the success or failure of the Northern Ireland Protocol was critical to ensuring that the spirit, promise and future of the Good Friday Agreement is protected. So clearly, Joe Biden has equated the kind of success of the Northern Ireland Protocol to be critical to the success of the Good Friday Agreement. So hopefully that made sense, that for the Good Friday Agreement to basically stay protected, the Northern Ireland Protocol has to work. So that's a good take from Joe Biden, because he is correct, and it's going to be interesting to see how much pressure he puts on the UK to make sure the Northern Ireland Protocol works, because the Americans are a guarantor of the Good Friday Agreement. So if things go wrong, they will have to get involved. So I'm guessing this is Spopel saying that he urged the UK and the EU to work out the specifics and find a way to proceed that works for both. I mean, the thing is, there's not going to be an agreement that works out for both Boris Johnson and the EU. That's the problem here, because what they want is two different things. Boris Johnson just wants to get to the weekend without having a major goof, and the EU actually want to protect the integrity of the single market. That's the problem. But whatever way they find to proceed must at its fundamental core protect the gains of the Good Friday Agreement, and that's going to be the key here. There will not be, at least I will hope that there will not be a hard border within Ireland. But then if there is no hard border within Ireland, what that means is you either have the Northern Ireland Protocol or you have a trade border between Ireland and the EU, and I can't see the latter happening. I think that the Northern Ireland Protocol will have to stay as is. But it's very tricky at the moment because, Boris Johnson's a tricksy customer because he doesn't care about consequences unless it impacts him. So he's saying that, this is the message, the one about the Good Friday Agreement mentioned here, that was the message President Biden will send at the G7 summit, which runs from Friday to Sunday in Carbis Bay, Cornwall, Mr. Sullivan said. So according to Sopel, that's my bad. He's saying that Joe Biden thinks the key to protecting the Good Friday Agreement is the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol. So if he does a speech on this, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Boris Johnson to come to some sort of agreement with the EU and probably compromise on his part. A huge compromise on his part to make it work. We've got a bit more from John Sopel. So Jack Sullivan is the gentleman being interviewed here. That's my bad. Jack Sullivan is the person being interviewed. That's big oof there. But anyways, that's not important. Saying that Joe Biden wants to know that the world to know that the US is not being isolationist. Poke your allies in the eye. Trump years are gone. That's phenomenal because that was Trump's strategy. And he would poke you in the eye and stuff like that, metaphorically speaking, anyways. That the familiar multilateral America is returning, kind of the Barack Obama America is returning. So the UK has pushed back the full implementation of checks on supermarket goods and parcels travelling from Britain to Northern Ireland to ease the disruption to supplies. This has prompted the EU to accuse the UK of undermining the Northern Ireland Protocol and begin legal action. The next phase is on chilled meats, as we've mentioned previously in multiple videos. And so what's to gather from this video? Well, it looks like Joe Biden originally was just going to talk to Boris Johnson, through a one-to-one meeting to tell him that, look, you need to make sure you fulfill your part of the Northern Ireland Protocol, and then separately he was probably going to have a word with EU officials saying, stop being so bureaucratic and be more flexible. Like, okay, Joe, it's good to know Sleepy Joe still exists in there. But point being is that, by the looks of this article and this interview with Jack Sullivan, Joe Biden will potentially give a speech or talk to more EU sort of G7 leaders about the need for the Northern Ireland Protocol to work, especially since he hinges the success of the Good Friday Agreement on the Northern Ireland Protocol. He, by the looks of things, he thinks the two are combined together, and for the Good Friday Agreement to continue to be a success, it requires now the Northern Ireland Protocol due to Brexit. So Joe Biden, an interesting character. He's very invested in Ireland, just as many other politicians in America are. But he's probably the most invested in Ireland as a US president. Probably in, I couldn't tell you what the last one that would have been so invested. Probably Bill Clinton, because he was the one that helped get the Good Friday Agreement signed. So that's interesting. But yeah, we'll see what Joe Biden has to say during the G7. This is not the best picture of him, I'm not going to lie. But yeah. I don't think there's much more to say, but apart from, Joe Biden actually using the US as a force for good in the world, which is surprising. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.